glasses. All right, how are you guys doing? Can you guys hear me? Let's see, we got 2 people on. You guys hear me okay? All right, so we're gonna get started. I'll just post this video on YouTube channel, okay? All right, so we're gonna go over permeability, okay? So basically, when we were talking, we're branching off from, all the streams and the glaciers, and we're gonna go into basically our last step before we start getting into weather next week. But before we get into that, we got to kind of how water reacts with the surface of the earth. So when we were doing the water cycle, if you guys remember that, there were 2 things that happen when precipitation, which is rain, snow, sleet, actually hit the ground. So you can either have infiltration, which is basically the water is sinking into the ground, or you can have runoff, which is flowing along the surface. So runoff, it basically could be a river, a stream, all right, a little creek, anything that is going on the surface and actually not going into the ground, okay? Where infiltration goes into the ground and eventually goes into our groundwater system, okay? Down below in our water table, all right? So there are 2 things that happen with infiltration, okay? Permeability is the ability for water to pass through, okay? So it's basically how permeable is the ground for the water that's created by precipitation, okay, to go in. And then also porosity, okay, is the amount of open pore space between particles. So the particles we're talking about is our boulders, pebbles, sand, silt, clay. And basically what happens is let's say we just have 2 beakers, okay? And when we're talking about the space in between for porosity, let's say we're using boulders, okay? And we have these giant boulders here. And if you notice, they don't really settle in nicely because they're so large. So all this free space can eventually be filled up with water, okay? So if I was to pour a bucket of water on this, the water is going to travel down really fast, okay? So that's what we're talking about with porosity. Now, our smallest thing is silts and clays. So they're really small, okay? So if I just did a bunch of little dots over and over again, and I filled up this whole thing, okay, there's not going to be a lot of open space in between. So when I pour water down, most of that water is basically going to go on the surface, all right? And then eventually it's going to start to trickle down into our silts and clays, okay? That's why when you usually see a lot of dirt and stuff with the silts and clays, that's usually when you get a puddle because it's not infiltrating because the porosity size is a lot smaller, okay? Any questions so far on those 2? I know there's some of you guys watching right now, but those are the 2 basic things that I want to get through with this today. Now, capillarity, all right, that's how water moves upward through soil. So for that, think of plants, okay, where they get a lot of water through their roots because if the porosity, if they're really close together, water is able to actually travel upwards, okay? So that's the plants getting and trees getting water from the soil. It's going up into the roots, and then eventually that water's traveling up to the leaves up at the top, okay? And then eventually it passes through back into the atmosphere through transpiration, which we learned about during the water cycle, okay? Now, To remember capillary as going up, I always think capillary, the word looks like caterpillar, so it's always crawling up. And a good example, which I'm sure, most of us, me, myself included, where this has happened to, if you think about it, if you've ever walked outside and you accidentally step in a puddle and you get the bottom of your jeans wet, and then before you know it, it kind of goes up to your knee, okay? That's capillary. Same thing if you step out of the shower and you go back into the bathroom with the pair of socks and you get a little bit of your sock wet and then it travels up your sock, that's capillary. That's water traveling upwards, okay? So that's how you can remember capillary, all right? So the more pore space that you have, the faster the infiltration rate is going to be, okay? So really quick, I was able to get into the classroom this week and get this book because, of course, I didn't have the copy at home. So I'm going to assign pages 124 to 130, questions 1 to 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually type up the questions and put them on a Google assignment on Google Classroom, okay? It's only 10 questions, okay? But on page 112, it does go into what we're talking about right here with other diagrams, all right? And then as you get to the end, it talks about zone of saturation and some other things that are important. But this is a small little topic, and I think going forward in this class, we're going to start just really going out of this book, okay? I'm going to be posting PowerPoints and some other photos and videos, but going forward, we're definitely going to be taking over with this book. I did post 2 labs online, which I just told you guys, if you're able to do them and send them back to me, that's great. I can print them out once we get back into the classroom, whenever that is, or you can write them down and then I'll give you a hard copy when we get back. Does anyone have any questions though? All right, so while you're thinking of some questions, also, just to go over it again, I did put a message on Google Doc, but this is the reminds for any of you. You text this number, all right, 81010, and then you text that message at 74EE97, okay? And that's just for you guys. That's for all my students in Earth Science. This way, if you guys have a question, you can talk to me right away, and I can help you out, whether it's the lab or any of the homework assignments, okay? All right, so I'll stay on for a little bit, and hopefully someone asks me a question, or else we're going to be signing off a little early. All right, I think that's it. Okay, so again, I know that you guys are doing what you're supposed to. Oh, how have you been keeping up the corner? Watching a lot of TV shows, reading books, and I signed up for some online classes, so that's been keeping me busy. Also, I know you guys have been doing the Google stuff. I'm waiting for an email back about what we're going to be doing with grades with all this. But again, I know a lot of you are doing everything you're supposed to, and your third quarter grade is going to represent that. I know I haven't been adjusting anything on Power School yet. Still waiting for that email to really tell me what we're supposed to be doing with it. But, a lot of you, I see who's, doing the activities inside of it, who's activating Google Classroom. So I appreciate it. I know this is not the most ideal situation for a lot of you guys. Me neither. Okay. But we're just going to go from there. All right. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns about what we just went over? Again, this is just a brief overview of what you guys are going to be reading about. And then the 10 questions just kind of go with that, okay? Don't worry about, the grade if somehow you get a low grade, okay? When I return it to you, it's going to show the actual questions and answers. And again, this is the same thing like me going over it. Instead of going over it, I just send it back, okay? When does the quarter end? Well, the progress reports went out. I think it's like a couple of weeks, to be honest. I don't know the exact date. As soon as I find out, I'll send you a thing on Remind. All right. But again, I know who's doing everything they're supposed to on this, so I will be putting some grades in once I find out how they want us to do it. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So if that's it, then I'll see you guys Monday at 1 o'clock again. Okay. Keep up the good work. If you haven't started the labs yet, definitely don't wait to the last minute. And then the sooner we get through this stuff, then we'll start weather. And I got a lot of cool videos I'll upload for that. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys later. All right. Stay safe.